like this type of sensitivity that we're talking about, which I thought was funny. Like we
Oh,
have our own.
wow. Yeah.
We have
Wow.
our
That makes sense.
own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know Gen Z is kind of leading a lot of this. So I'm sure maybe they just don't have a name or there is a name and I didn't research as thoroughly yet at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I kind of want to start with I was reading an article just to have a starting off point that was saying that there are a lot of factors that could be leading to why we're. I feel like, as a general thought, I do think we are a little a little sensitive. I will say we are very sensitive as a society. Is it
Yeah, let's start
too
with that.
is
So
it too sensitive? I don't know.
you're okay, but your final position right now is that we are too sensitive.
At
More
the
than just
moment.
okay. Okay. Do you think we're too sensitive in terms of how we actually feel about something or just in how we react to it? Like we're too easy to react, or do you think it's more of like that actually hurt our feelings and that's a problem?
I think we are I think the topics are worth bringing up, but I think how we react is too sensitive.
Okay.
Am I saying that correctly? I think so.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. I think I
Ha.
don't know. For me, it's hard to judge how important or relevant a topic is because I feel like there are times where other topics overshadow other topics just because it's trending or just because more people
Mm,
are sharing it on social media. Da, da. So in our world, that's the most important topic. But really, is it? Like,
right. Not
it
that it's
is.
not important, but
Right. But maybe it's blown out of proportion compared to other topics or problems that we should be looking at. And I think it's also, it tends to be those topics that hit close to home that people are sensitive about. Like, even just thinking of the whole woman harassment movement thing. I forget the whole like not me thing or whatever it's
oh, me
called.
too.
Me too. And then the other ones that I've seen recently about child prostitution. I guess there was like this huge wave of that kind of like after COVID happened where people were just like super big on outing that kind of practice still going on. So yes, those are super fucking important. But there's tons of other things
Hmm.
that I feel like just aren't as emotionally reactive to people, so they don't get the same like attention. And I feel like that's what shows like it's because we're being too sensitive, and maybe that's also not a healthy place to be coming from about those topics. Like, so I
Well,
don't know.
I guess to me it's just like I'm always zooming out, and maybe if anyone here also runs a business, it's just like how can we affect the most change? And sometimes I feel like because it's so easy to whine now through social media, and because there's basically a protection,
Mm-hmm.
there's a screen between you. Like even right now, if Sasha has a super different opinion than I do, and you voice it, we have the screen so that we can say whatever we want, and you're not going to attack me
Yeah.
physically,
Right.
Um, which I feel like then you just say whatever you want. But for what? Are you trying to change something? Are you doing anything else? And change is not going to happen overnight. So I think between social media and like just amount of information out there, plus the amount of humans in the world,
Right.
it the whining and that people are going to argue, say like, oh well, if you don't bring light to it, then nothing will change. And I'm like, that is correct, but there are ways to do that. And there's yelling at one person and then there's yelling at 7 billion people. That's not going
Yeah.
to do anything.
Well, I think too, I feel like in the early days, like I guess an activist approach, which is I think what people are trying to do by like sharing things that are trending or sharing topics they care about through social media or whatever, like it's almost like a passive form of being active on the topic because yes, you're sharing information and you're getting the word out, but are you like also sitting down and writing a letter to your congressman or like doing things behind the camera that you don't have to catalog and document because it's something important to you. And I feel like that's where sometimes I feel like the sharing and the mass media of the issues just feeds like the obsessiveness of it, and not really like making an actual change. I mean, I know the social media stuff does have a huge influence though, because I feel like a lot of recent cases, especially with like police brutality and stuff, have been heavily influenced by the fact that it was blown out of proportion through social media.
Right.
But there's times where I feel like, what if like, because the majority wins, right? Like, let's say the whole population feels one way. What if that's not like the right way? Like, what if that's not the most helpful for our species?
It's definitely not. I mean, even
you know what I mean?
Raising awareness, I think, is good. I think for me personally, I feel like the problem is we choose extreme examples to bring things to light, but the people doing the extreme things are not going to change their mind. You're trying to change minds of people in the middle, but if you're in the middle, I feel like to enact change for people in the middle, it's a long-term thing. It's how I should speak to my kids about these topics, or not speak about it at all because it should not exist, or like,
yeah.
I think trying to change extreme, like this person trying to change this extreme person's opinion is not going to do anything. And so bringing those to light puts all the people in the middle rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
And then the people on the other extreme rolling their eyes at this person for whatever topic. And so we're back at zero.
Well, I feel like I watched the recent decision that they made on the officer that killed George Floyd, and that was like a big deal. And I guess watching it was interesting because everyone was preparing for mayhem after. Like, they had guards and police and everyone just ready for whatever might happen once the decision was announced. And the guy was found guilty of all 3 charges, so everyone was pretty happy about that. But I feel like back in the day, right, like early days, like if you committed a crime, you were just like shamed by your community or like exiled or something. But now it's to the degree where like you can get a whole country or multiple countries hating someone for what they did in a moment's reaction. Not that it was right or anything, but I'm just saying, like, human wise, like it was just this like thing that happened within seconds, and then now their whole life is ruined. But I just think it's interesting that we have that much influence and like power over like legal cases, where like those used to be kind of protected, where like evidence was protected, witnesses were like a big thing to get or like find or whatever. And I feel like now everyone just can dive into whatever the case is, and it might be false information or like rumors, like the Cecil Hotel thing. I feel like that was a perfect example.
Yes,
of the
that's
influence
a great example
of social media, because everyone was invested in like this girl that potentially went missing or got murdered, and everyone was trying to figure it out. And they like made these people's lives living hells just because they like stayed at the Cecil Hotel one time 2 years before, and they thought like they were the murderer. Like they accused them of murder just because they saw a YouTube
you're
video.
Like chilling at home, like what is
yeah.
Or even OJ, like I feel like because he was so famous, it was so heavily influenced. So I feel like the other way, like he got off the hook because of that. Like I feel like media definitely messes a lot of things up, but I feel like now, more specifically with like the Cecil Hotel, is regular common folk having so many opinions.
Yeah.
Like with OJ, it was more like people would freak out. But I mean, are they gonna be busting down your door? I don't know. But
yeah.
Now with social media, it's like there's so many words being said. It's so weird to me. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's weird. And even the Cecil Hotel thing, I remember one of the things that people were upset about was that the video clip that they released of the girl in the elevator was altered. Like they cut a part of it out or something. Or they changed the timing on it. There was something with the timestamp and the way the video was playing. So everyone overanalyzed the shit out of that because they're sitting at home obsessing and fanaticizing some case that they're not involved in, some girl that they don't know. And they were like, I can't believe the police didn't post the whole video or that they did that and da-da-da. And it's like, because it's not your case. Like, it's not your thing. It's not your problem. Like that, they should do that to protect the business, the hotel, and to protect the actual integrity of the family of the girl involved. Like, what if the family didn't want that video released or shown to the public, and now it's like blown up everywhere? Like, what if they're embarrassed by that? Like, there's just no privacy and like protection of like people under like, you know, the spotlight with like legal things or issues like whatever, murder and stuff. But
there's literally zero privacy, but I mean, that's a separate topic.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we've always grown up learning. There's so many different lessons, but, you know, you can't please everyone. Mm-hmm. And you're saying that you're being taught this so that you can move on with your life, right? But then I feel like we're trying to live in this world of just like, we're going to solve all the world's problems. It's just like, as humans, we're never satisfied.
Yeah.
Even if your life is too hunky-dory, you're like, there's something wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Or like you find something to pick a fight about. So I think we definitely still have a lot of societal issues, but I think we will always have it. And I am grateful to at least be pooping on a toilet rather than in a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And being sold off to another person. Not to say that that's not still happening in some parts of the world, but I am grateful that in this country, that is least likely to happen to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I also think, if you don't like it, go to another country. But
what I think there's also just with the side of like sensitivity or like being overly opinionated because it's like a sensitive topic or something. I feel like because that's the foundation of like why someone is saying their opinion, it means that you're also probably making a lot of like false assumptions about the people involved or about the situation itself or whatever it is that's going on. Like, because you weren't there, like you don't know anything. Like, you might have seen a video or a picture. That's different because that's like actual proof. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like we'll hear about a topic or a trending issue and we might just know like, you know, one case of that whole issue. And because you know that one case and you feel super passionate about it and you're sensitive towards that topic, it now becomes this thing that is a game of telephone where like now you're sharing information or sharing how you feel about it, but it could be like altered by the next person that hears it or the next person that hears it. Or like you make a post one day because you're angry, but then the next day you're over it and now you're remembered as that person that made that angry post that was anti whatever, and now you're shamed for it. Like, it's just, there's just so much with the sensitivity thing where I feel like there's also like a lack of forgiveness or a lack of understanding of just like people being people. And it's like, no one's gonna, I don't know, do things right, but that doesn't mean you have to like make it like the end of the world.
Well, yes, right or wrong, I think, like regardless of if it's right or wrong, I feel like people forget that we used to not be able to talk about politics or religion or money or like those sensitive topics in person, but not, and then like I feel like there's this whole thing of just like we should be able to talk about these things, but I feel like people forget about the fact that okay, we should be able to talk about it, but remember these are opinions, and like you want people to talk about it, they're talking about it, now you're yelling at them.
Yeah, I feel like the reason that was a rule is because they were topics that people feel strongly about, and they were trying to avoid arguments because typically people argue when they feel a lot about whatever it is they're talking about. So it's like it was for a purpose. Like there was a reason that we avoided talking about those
things. It's not like
now,
suppressing women's
right.
It's like this. It's like
you can't speak at the table. Like you can talk about anything else. There's many other things to talk about in life.
Well, I've noticed too, like when people have differences in opinions or religions or whatever, whether it's whatever the reason is, and I'll remember that.